Patrick Roach, who's former teacher and General Secretary of the Teachers' Union, the NASUWT. Now, armed with the advice and guidance that Mr Halfon subsequently received yesterday, does that give you the confidence now? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I'm afraid to say that the government is still working on advice and guidance for schools. So at the moment,
you heard what Mr Halfon just said, I'm sure, didn't you?
Well, at the moment, schools simply don't have the sure that they're COVID secure from June the 1st. And, what we are asking ministers to ensure is that schools can properly risk assess for the purposes of bringing in more children and more adults into their buildings to ensure that transmission rates are not increased and to ensure that staff and pupils remain safe. And, it is a worry that the Chief Scientific Advisor at the Department for Education has also expressed concerns about the nature of not only the modelling, but the evidence which has been provided in relation to children transmitting the virus and adults transmitting the virus also in school context.
Right. You are aware, are you, Dr Roach, that across the entire planet there is no evidence of anyone below the age of 10 transmitting the virus? And you are also aware of the SAGE's subsequent advice that it is okay to proceed and that indeed your colleagues are in more danger of contracting the virus in the staff room than they are from the children. And they're presumably happy to work in the staff room currently, so why can't they go back to school on June the 1st?
Sure. The issue is not about whether or not teachers are happy to go back into the classroom, because teachers want to get back into their classrooms, but they want to get back into their classrooms in a manner which is going to be safe for them and safe for their students. And when you have more adults, you have more children socially interacting in schools, then there is greater risk. And it's absolutely right. We just heard from Robert Halton. The government proceeds cautiously. That's what the Prime Minister said on Sunday. And all we're asking is that there is clarity about the guidance that schools follow, there's consistency across the 20,000 schools or so across the length and breadth of the country to ensure that staff and students are kept safe.
And yet, meanwhile, your counterparts in Denmark, in Sweden, in Belgium, in France are opening the primary schools, but not in the UK. What does that say?
And we've seen different trajectories in relation to the virus. We've seen different transmission rates and we've seen different death rates. And the UK has the highest death rate in Europe. Look,
No, it doesn't. Not per 1 million. No. All right, I'll just talk over you if you're not polite enough. We can't put facts out that are wrong. It has the highest number of deaths, but not the highest death rate per million. Do go on. I'm surprised I have to put you right, but never mind.
Okay, the NSWT is not arguing that schools shouldn't be reopening. In fact, I'm not arguing that schools shouldn't be reopening. What we're arguing is that it's important that students and teachers...
But this is what I don't understand. 22 miles across the English Channel, it's safe, but it's not here.
You've asked me a question. Whether or not teachers want to return to school. And I'm saying that teachers do want to return to school. It's important that in doing so, that children and teachers are kept safe.
All right. OK, we're battling with a bad line. Dr Patrick Roach, I do hope you're right when you say teachers want to return to school. I wonder if they all do. You're General Secretary of the Teaching Union, the NASUWT.
So Nick Ferrari is slippery at the best of times. And while he says that there is no evidence to support young children transmitting the virus, he's technically correct, but he's probably better to say there's insufficient evidence, because it depends on your point of view. So this is a report from Vox News, so I want to read a part from this. So it says here, the evidence for why children rarely transmit the virus. It's not entirely clear why, but so far children don't seem to be getting COVID-19 as often as adults. According to the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1.7% of 150,000 American COVID-19 cases affected people under the age of 18. Globally, the amount with COVID-19 is under 2% of all cases, from Korea to Spain to Italy. And there is a growing body of scientific literature showing children may not be as likely to spread the virus to others as older people. Now, the article quotes this report from a study, quotes this study from New South Wales in Australia, where they carried out a test on the transmission of COVID-19 in a number of schools. So it says here, as the chart below shows, they found that only one person out of 168 in close contact with an infected person got sick with the virus, which led to the following conclusion. COVID-19 transmission in children in schools appears considerably less than seen in other respiratory viruses such as influenza. So basically what they're saying is that in schools with young people, you're seeing less of a spread than influenza. The top Australian officials, including the Chief Medical Officer Brendan Murphy, are now citing this report to say social distancing measures don't need to be followed in schools as the country considers reopening them in the near future. But Dr. Christine McCartney, the study's lead author, so the one who actually published this report, pushed back on such conclusions. We did see low transmission, but we didn't see no transmission, she told me. I think children can still transmit coronavirus. That's certainly the case. We've seen that. Now, this of course points to the fact that yes, there is a lower transmission with children, but it's not zero. So it sort of defeats Nick Ferrari's argument that there is no transmission. Of course, there's a certain amount of transition, and it's much lower than other viruses. But is the government comfortable with that percentage? That's the main argument here. Are the government willing to take the risk according to this evidence? Now, this is not all of the evidence. We're still learning how this virus spreads. We're still learning how it infects people, and how it affects older people more than younger people. And we're still not sure why younger people are not getting infected at the same rate as adults. Now, this is an unknown. So this has to be included in the risk factor. So once again, are governments comfortable with opening schools knowing that there's a risk? I think it's important that the government are transparent with the public and explain, yes, there is a risk, but the risk is extremely low. Because we can't close, I'm trying to play the devil's advocate here, so we can't close schools completely forever if we want to avoid any transmission of this virus or any virus. So if we close schools completely, then we're going to stop the virus. But then we can't function as a society without schools. Children need to go to school. They need to learn. But on the other side, how much risk are we willing to take? If this was 3% or 4% or 8%, at what point would the government say it's no longer worth the risk? Or at what point do they say it is worth the risk? Now, I have to cut through some of the political language here as well with Nick Ferrari, because Nick Ferrari is a supporter of the Conservative Party and the government. So he's going to defend the government in most cases. So I think it's important to know that. I'm trying to be a devil's advocate here. I'm trying to be neutral. I think if the government believe that the risk is sufficiently low, then I think it's a good idea to open the schools. Because we cannot, as I said before, eliminate all possible risks. As I've said on other occasions, wearing a mask, wearing a gloves in public does not eliminate the possibility of transmitting the virus. It reduces it, but we don't completely close down our societies in order to completely eliminate all risk. We live with a certain amount of risk, and we live with a certain amount of risk in all aspects of our lives. If we wanted to avoid car accidents completely, we would never drive anywhere. But we understand the risk and we manage that risk. We try to mitigate the risk as much as possible. So if allowing children to go back to school and the risk is extremely low, then I would support that. Before reading this article, before seeing the evidence, I was completely against the idea, because I believed, like many people, that children would spread the virus just as much as adults would, or that there was insufficient evidence to support the idea that children wouldn't spread the virus. But the reports we've seen so far have pointed in the direction, not just this one, but many reports have been pointing in the direction that children are much lower level risk in the transmission of this virus. So I think as a society we have to balance the risk involved, and I think I will have to come down on the point that if the risk is sufficiently low, then we as a society have to function, and we have to mitigate the risk as much as possible, but live with that. Of course, these are my opinions, and everyone has an opinion, so I'd like to know your opinions in the comments section. Please let me know what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server, where we share news, chat, and have some fun? If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.